Today's discussion will be on in-depth interviews. An in-depth interview is a systematic way of obtaining detailed information about a person's opinion, beliefs, experiences, and so forth through a one-on-one interaction between the researcher and the respondent. In an in-depth interview, the researcher engages in a personal or person-to-person interaction with the client in order to elicit information concerning the variables under study. An in-depth interview is a research method of choice when a researcher wants detailed clarifications concerning the variable of interest. The researcher here aims at exploring in-depth issues of interest from the standpoint of the respondent. In an in-depth interview, the researcher does not only record the information given by the respondent, but also records what he observes, his own reflections on the subject matter, and also other conversations. The in-depth interviewer must be a good listener, must be patient, must be open-minded, must be able to transcribe the information obtained from respondents or interviewees, and must be able to note the non-verbal cues in the interview. There are three types of in-depth interviews, and these are the structured, the unstructured, and the semi-structured. Under the semi-structured, this approach balances structure and flexibility. The researcher follows a general framework but allows the respondents to answer questions in their own way. Information gathered can be analyzed both qualitatively and quantitatively. Under the unstructured interview, the respondent is not strictly compelled to explore a specific theme. Questions are open-ended, allowing the respondent to elaborate freely. This method does not only employ questionnaires or structured processes, and the researcher's role is to guide without imposing, letting the respondent lead the discussion. The researcher enters the interview with a clear agenda, aiming to streamline the discussion and prevent digressions. The focus is on achieving specific goals or eliciting particular information, distinguishing it from ordinary interview processes. The advantages of this type of interview. 1. It is less stressful when compared to other qualitative methods, and it is easier to conduct. It allows for immediate clarification of issues raised by the respondent. It also provides deeper insights than other methods. It is useful for gathering sensitive information after establishing. An in-depth interview is also advantageous because it enables the researcher to elicit information he would not normally have elicited through a questionnaire or even through a focus group discussion. The nature of an in-depth interview is unstructured. This means that the respondent is allowed to freestyle on the topic of interest. That is to say, all that is within his or her knowledge concerning it. There are no restrictions with regard to the structure and the timing of the response. One can, in the process of answering the question, touch on other matters of interest in the discussion, provided that those areas are significant in the final outcome. It is very important to note that there are various methods of recording information during the interview process. It could be recorded with either an audio or a video recorder, but care should be taken to obtain the consent of the interviewee before adopting either. It is also very important for the researcher to transcribe such information immediately after the interview so as to reduce loss of information. In order to elicit as much information as possible from respondents during an in-depth interview, it is imperative for the researcher to ask only open-ended questions and also encourage the respondent to respond in a detailed manner to the raised question. Hence, in so doing, the respondent freely expresses his opinions, experiences, and beliefs concerning the subject. The researcher is also supposed to provide a plan of action, an interview protocol, and guide, if possible and when needed, train research assistants, collect, analyze, and interpret the data. The disadvantages of this type of interview. Social desirability bias may affect responses, challenging the truthfulness of the data. It is very time-consuming from participant recruitment to transcription. The respondent's emotional state can influence their answers. It is very difficult to find a suitable private interview setting. When selecting appropriate participants, it is often tedious. And lastly, subjectivity can introduce bias from both the researcher and the respondent.